This conference will now be recorded.
All right, evening, everybody. So this is a joint meeting of Planning and Development Subcommittee and Town Council, Tuesday, February 2nd, 2021, 6 p.m. Remote participation, chairman's announcement pursuant to Governor Baker's March 12, 2020 order suspending certain provisions of the Open Meeting Law, General Law, Chapter 30 Alpha, subsection 18, and the Governor's March 15, 2020 order imposing strict limitations on the number of people that may gather in one place. This meeting of the Planning and Development Subcommittee is being conducted as remote participation. No in-person attendance of members of the public will be permitted, but every effort will be made to ensure that the public can adequately access the proceedings as provided for in the order. A reminder that persons who would like to view this meeting while in progress may do so by watching by remote information noted below. We will post a record of this meeting on the town's website at www.ci.southbridge.ma.us as soon as we are able. Roll call vote is required for all votes taken under this order. Agenda item number 1, roll call. Dee Dee?
Here.
Catherine?
Here.
Joe Dow, Councilor Dow? Councilor Lazo? And myself, present. We have a quorum. All right, agenda item number 2. Consider and accept planning and development meeting minutes of January 21st, 2021. Need a motion and a second?
Accept them.
So you make the motion?
Yes, I do. I'm sorry.
Okay.
I'm sorry.
Catherine? You're on,
Sorry, yes. Sorry.
okay, so you'll second those? Okay.
Yes.
All right. Discussion, any amendments to these meeting minutes?
The only thing I saw, Dick, was,
Yeah.
I'm trying to think about, maybe about 5 from the bottom, it says looking into the having a service provider.
Okay, I see it. Yep. Got it.
That's all I saw.
Okay, Catherine, did you see anything?
No.
Okay. All right. Anybody else? All right. All those in favor, Dee Dee?
Yes.
Or as amended? Catherine?
Yes.
Councilor Adams, yes. All right. Hold on 1 second. All right. And Ms. Dean is on here now as well. We also have Councilor Catrona, Councilor Marquetti, Councilor Daniel. If I miss anybody, I think that's it right now. All right. Agenda item number 3. Discuss agenda item number 3. We're not going to make a motion on this at the very beginning, just in case we have multiple locations. But I'm just going to read this off, but I don't need anybody to motion on this. Discuss review pursuing the Mass EVIP grant for another public charging station and at what location. Entertain a motion to vote to recommend that council pursue applying for this grant. Is Mr. Rumsey in or here? He is not here right now. Mr. Town Manager or Ms. Dean, did you want to discuss this a little bit further? This is something that we postponed to this meeting, but I don't know that Eric did provide some updated information as far as costs to maintain or to charge. I didn't know if there was any other information anybody else wanted to provide from the town.
I don't have anything to add. I do know that Mr. Rumsey's information said that, I thought it said he was planning to be here. I'm just not sure if he'll pop on momentarily or not. I don't know if Ms. Dean has anything to add. The one thing I did briefly relate back and forth to him, we're not currently on one of the major sites. There's a couple of them like Charge Point and things for our existing charging station. And that's something that we could consider doing. There may be an additional charge. I know I did that in my previous community. And I think to get the software token to use that in your charger could cost roughly $1,000 a year. And you can get a stepped package. The more charging stations you have, the better the rate you would get for the software tokens. But what that allows you to do is you get the advertisement. People can find it on their apps on their phone, depending upon which software program and which association you go with. But also that allows you to configure the rules that we talked about on some of your stations, so that when people come in, you can program that if they're connected for so many hours, you don't charge them right away. Or if they're connected for more than so many hours, you can charge a parking fee. So there are advantages to using that type of software. I don't know if we're there just yet, but ours came with one of the grants that we received. So we started out with it and we used it and kept it. That might be something that we would experiment with once, if we decide to go down this route, making sure that we're getting enough back in terms of charging to cover our electricity costs. But if we also want to ensure that we were had a rule in there that charged people parking fees to deter people from overnight parking and monopolizing our sites, that's something we would have to look at going down the road. And just trying to, at the same time, look for Mr. Rumsey's cell phone number. I have it. I just not putting my fingers on it. I just want to text him.
Okay. Yeah, so I
No
texted
worries.
him and he'd said that, whoops. So hopefully he's hopping right on in a moment's notice. But let me just check with him and ask if he needs us to hold much longer.
Well, just on the town manager's point is at the back pages, the second to the last page talks about fees that could be added in by hiring on these contractors as well. One thing, we postponed this because obviously there's a lot of questions about this and we didn't have enough time to go over all these questions, nor did I believe that we had enough information to move forward with this to the town council. From what the new map that we received, I believe it's over, there's 3 locations, one by the common, a second would be in front of the, I think that's the library, correct? Over by, yeah, by the library, and the other one is over behind, it's the municipality parking lot behind the fire station. So those are the locations. One area that we also discussed on this as well was to the 2 that are in front of the town hall, actually taking those 2 and splitting them, put one behind the town hall where the car can be parked, so nobody can use it, nobody will use it. And the other one we put at the DPW. And then apply for these grants, more than 1 charging station. So get 2 more charging stations over at the town hall where we can utilize a vendor and charge the public for utilizing, because I will say it, and maybe other councilors can vouch, I have seen multiple cars parked over there, electric cars that are utilizing that charging station. So that could actually be number 4. And based on what Ms. Dean, I believe Mr. Rumsey mentioned last time, it does not seem to limit, this grant does not seem to limit how many we can apply for or receive. Just up to $50,000 per station. And then we'd have to decide between 120 volt and a 240 volt. Yes, Ms. Dean. You're mute.
All right. I think if I read the guidance, it said 50,000 per location. So for instance, if we were to quote it out, if we were to do 2 at the town hall, we'd have to make sure that falls within $50,000. But that was just a quick glance.
Okay. All right. No, thank you, Ms. Dean, for clarifying. Dee Dee or Catherine, do you have anything that you wanted to mention in here, or you're to discuss, or where you think would be a good location?
Yeah, I just had a question on,
Yeah,
like,
Catherine.
I remember at the last meeting, people were saying that if somebody has it plugged in for, like, say, while they're working and they're at work for 8 hours and someone else drives up and they need to plug in their car, and if they were to unplug yours, if they see yours is fully charged, they unplug and plug yours. If that person causes any damage to the car, who would be liable for that?
That's a
Would the
good
town
point.
be liable?
I'll leave that to the town manager.
Well, I would think, we're installing more and more cameras at various locations and to ensure the protection of our property. If we don't already have one, I would ensure that we have one at these charging stations. But if somebody else touches your vehicle, I mean, if you're not done with it, my position would be, we had nothing to do with that. They committed a trespass and they did a tort liability by damaging your car if they scratch it or dent it, just like if you were in a shopping area and somebody opened the door and dented your car, and then we would just hand over any video that we had, assuming we have the camera. If not, like I said, we can put one out there and hand that over to the insurance companies. And I'm sure our insurance provider would take the same position, that it's not the town's fault that your car got scratched. And then let those two deal with it. It's a third party issue.
Just, Mr. Town Manager, since you've dealt with this kind of before, let's just say the individual is paying through a vendor. Does that lock into your vehicle at all? So if you're paying for so many hours, does the cable lock into your vehicle so it can't be removed?
The ones that I've used, and I used to use our town's electric vehicle quite regularly, it just plugs in and there's a little button that clips it in, so somebody could push that button down and take it out. And my understanding is the moment it makes the connection, it starts the charging process. The moment you disconnect it, it's not like somebody could take it off of your car and then put it onto another car without any break in continuity and start charging theirs. Conceivably, you could do it at a gas pump, I would imagine. You could quick pull it out and stick it into somebody else while it's charging on somebody else's dime. But I'm not aware that you could do that. I don't think we ever encountered that problem. We had 2 charging stations in front of one of the town halls that I worked for before. I know other town employees would know when ours was done, and they might remove it and move it, but I have no experience with a non-town employee ever disconnecting a vehicle and moving it to another car. That was never anything that came up.
Thank you. Catherine, do you have anything else that you want to mention or right now?
No,
okay,
that's it.
Dee Dee? Okay, thank you. Dee Dee?
Okay, my only suggestion is, what about some sort of signage where the town is not responsible for damages to vehicles or something of that nature?
That could easily be taken care of. I know in one of the other communities, and it's not uncommon to see something that the parking, there's usually signage saying that these spots are designated for electric vehicles only. All others will be towed at their own use, and then you could put something there as well. And the town is not responsible for anything damage that may occur to yours during the charging process. Yeah.
Okay. Dee Dee, you have anything else?
No, thank you.
I just want to make mention that Councilor Jovan's here and Ms. Rumsey's here as well. So I guess, does anybody else have anything, any discussion, any comments you want to make? It's on here. So, okay, I don't see anything right now, but I'll start the discussion. I don't have a problem with applying for these 4 different locations at all and see what we can get out of them. I just think that in the end, we're preparing the town for the future. If we're already having within the town hall itself a couple people charging their vehicles. I do believe the electric vehicles are heading our way sooner than later, and just preparing the town, I think, would be it would help us out in the end. So I don't believe that the town taxpayer should directly pay for this on a daily basis. So I would definitely recommend that we have to get a provider or some type of vendor that would offset the costs of the not only the usage, but also the annual maintenance fees on these machines. So I don't know if anybody else has any comments or concerns. Councilor Daniel.
I think on the face of it, that this is a good idea. I think you're right. We are looking to the future. Was it General Motors is saying they're going to be making all electric cars by 2035. So in effect, we're making the town a little bit more friendly for our potential residents at that point. My concern is you're talking, for in the information we've got, a Tesla Model S would be about $500 a year, I'm thinking, to charge just one car. If we've got 4 units and they're all being used, and they're all being used, say, for 8-hour charges, you're going to be talking real money. So I think that if we go forward with this, we need someone to be able to pick up the cost and not have the town paying for the electricity and that sort of thing. So some sort of a vendor, some sort of a third party being involved in this, I think, is the way to go. Thank you. That's all I have.
Thank you, Councilor Daniel. Anybody else? All right. I guess this question is Mr. Rumsey, though, is the vendors per se. And I think the town manager hit on it about the maintenance fee being about a $400. I thought the maintenance fee was about $400. Is it separate? I mean, as far as the maintenance fee, and then, I mean, we're putting this in here, but what about the cost of the vendor itself? Is that built into their charge to the consumer themselves, or is there a charge to the town for contracting them?
So if you don't mind, in my research, it really all depends. I believe that typically, it depends on which vendor you end up going with. I believe some it's rolled into the cost of the charge, and other spots it's just the cost of the municipality or whoever owns the charging station.
Okay.
So I think if we had let's say a Tesla charge, like a supercharger network, I'm pretty sure Tesla takes care of all maintenance on that. I looked at the charge point, and they have several different tiers of charging maintenance agreements, and they may have one that is taken care of through the charging fees, and others are done by the owner of the charging facility. So it would be something we would have to look to budget for. But again, I think the cost is minimal at best. Typically with those, you're looking at maybe a blown fuse or a cable that gets frayed, and those cables have a lifespan anyway, where they need to be replaced. So that again, that's another thing to budget for.
But we budget for it, but offsetting the cost of it, correct, within the contract itself. Because there are fees that we can ask the vendor to charge to place on the consumer, correct?
I believe that is correct, yes.
It just offsets the cost. I'm not asking to make a mint on it, but if we're going to put those out there, that I don't want the taxpayers directly paying. My recommendation is not to have the taxpayers pay directly for the maintenance on these who they may not be using. So, okay.
Right. Yeah. Again, in my research, the amount that the owner of the charging station makes should more than offset any maintenance cost.
Okay. All right. Thank you, Mr. Rumsey. Does there anybody else have any questions or qualms or, again, I have no problem asking the town to apply for all 4 locations. Dee Dee?
Yeah, the maintenance fee would only be to take care of maintenance. Say somebody comes along and runs into it, crashes into it, whatever, backs up, takes off. Who's responsible then for repairs? Would that fall under us, or is it under the part of the maintenance program, or where would that fall?
That would fall under typically the person who crashed into the charging
Insurance.
station through their insurance. Now we would, for 2 of the examples, we're looking at them as being essentially roadside. For those, we would have to put up bollards in front of them that would protect those a little bit. So you're talking about a concrete encased steel pipe, essentially, that's about 3 feet into the ground, maybe 4 feet into the ground.
Okay, just that there's a number of people that are on the road as it is with no insurance on their vehicles or no insurance period who are out there driving. Doesn't mean that it would have to be somebody with an electric car. It just could be just somebody else coming along, backing into it, hitting it. And I know that it said it's quite expensive. So where would we have to pay to repair that? Would it be the town coming out of the town pocket, or is there some form of insurance? I guess that's my question.
Could we have a separate insurance policy put on them just in case for underinsured or non-insured motorists, within adding that into the fee itself?
Yeah, I think you should add it in.
I don't know if we can do that. I have no idea what the policies are out there, but it makes sense. We could. Okay, any others? Like I said, yeah, go ahead, Mr. Town Manager.
A couple things, something that you would want to revisit time to time if we're experimenting with certain economic development initiatives. You may find that you want to lower your fee to encourage people, especially if we start looking at going back to the bike trail. You attract a certain type of customer or visitor if they're there to utilize some of your green attractions, such as the bike trail and things. You may want to make it more inviting by either having a reduced fee or no fee at all. While we were talking, I did happen to find a slide or 2 from a presentation I worked on previously that may be of some interest. I didn't know if you want to just let me share your screen for a second. I would just share something with you.
Yeah, let me see what I can do here. Hey guys, it's been a while since I've done. Here, a moment.
Sometimes you have to make you co-host or something.
You're all
Okay.
set.
Okay.
Just took me a few seconds there.
So when I was doing a presentation, we were contemplating charging a fee. We used to offer it free at first based on our grant. We looked at how we were going to do this, and we did out the math what it was costing us for energy. So we figured based on the charging, much as Mr. Rumsey had talked about, we went and looked at what the average cost was for an average vehicle. We had the rare case 1 or 2 Teslas, but most people had a Chevy Volt or a Ford Focus. So we looked at kind of the average, and we determined that it would cost, so many hours usually 2 to 2.5 hours. We looked at our costs. So what we decided to do was, in order to create a rule that would encourage people to come to the town, we put our charging stations at one of our commons, at our library, and at our town hall. And in most instances, we had 2 charging stations for a total of 6. We've since added more at some of our park locations. But we came up with this rule for the first few hours. 2 hours would be free, and then after 2 hours, we would charge a parking fee, $1 an hour, but you would be charged for the energy. I think initially we realized it was 14 cents a kilowatt hour, but we bumped it up a couple of cents to cover some of the maintenance costs. So what I did show was this was the amount of revenue we wound up collecting based on the usage we were getting. So any given month, based on the number of people plugging in, we were getting $100 to $200 in revenue. What I did show was once you see this drop in this chart, it works its way up and then drops. Once we instituted the fee, some users left. So there were obviously people that were just taking advantage of it to charge their car and not really come into town to do business, or at least that's the assumption we made. And the next chart, I think, also backs that up. User sessions, the number of times people were plugging in was cut almost in half once we put in that rule. And similarly, I don't have a slide for it. This was just a very quick update that I gave to the elected officials in that community. We can also track, when you have the certain types of software, the number of what they call unique users. So it would look, each time you go in, you would have a card that you would scan, just like a little gym membership tag or something you'd wave in front of the charging station. And we realized that the makeup of the people that were using our charging stations changed after we implemented the rule. So you can actually tell if it's the same people. You could have 100 sessions a month, and it's always the same 25 people. You can run those statistics to see, who's coming into town. Or, if you have 100 sessions and 100 different people, you have more visitors to town. If month over month you have 100 sessions, it's the same 25 people. You're not luring people to town. So you can experiment over time with your fees and your rates to tailor it to see if you're bringing more people in or turning people away. And I've just threw this up as an illustration of the type of data you can collect, and you can see these trends and you can tweak it to ensure A, you're covering your costs, but B, are you striking the right balance so that you're still getting people to utilize it and maybe creating an incentive to bring other people into town. And that's really all I wanted to show you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Mr. Town Manager. Appreciate it. I just, before we move on to a motion, is there anybody else who has any more discussion? Just want to clarify with Mr. Rumsey real quick, the locations. Go ahead, Councilor Marquetti.
Oh, thank you, Mr. Chairman. Through you. The reason to have the electric stations, I guess, would be, as both Councilor Adams and Daniel said, is to encourage people to buy electric cars, no? Wouldn't that be the reason to have electric stations?
It's also to accommodate those people who are already beginning to migrate to that type of vehicle usage. I mean, if you listen to the new administration coming in, they want to put a lot of money behind a lot of these incentives. They want to spend more on green energy. So I think going forward, we will want to adapt and accommodate as more and more of our citizens look at buying those. As Councilor Daniel mentioned, I heard the news the other day that Chevy is going to stop producing traditional combustion engines. So at some point, either the commercial entities will spring up for charging stations, but we may have, as an accommodation or a service to our community, we may want to have a few of these in town.
Okay. Well, I think it's a good idea. I don't know if you want to put a fee on it, I don't have a problem, but I think it's a good idea. And we got to do something about climate change. This is a start, so. All right, thank you.
Thank you, Councilor Marquetti. Anybody else? Okay, Mr. Rumsey, I just wanted to clarify locations that you recommended. One was the municipality parking lot behind Elm Street or behind the fire station. The second one was in front of the library on Main Street, and the third one was located by the gazebo at the Common. Is that correct?
Yes, that is correct. And a lot of these stations that we can apply for the grant. Yes,
Can I just correct that? So he said in front of the library. Is that where you landed on?
yes. So far, that's where we have landed on, is in front of the library. In the original location we had looked at is not going to work due to the Main Street project. So we are looking at still on the street in front of the library, just to the east of the crosswalk now instead of to the west of the crosswalk that is right in front of the library.
Okay, thank you for clarifying.
Sure. So many of these units that we're looking at actually have 2 charging heads built into them also. So I know there's some concern with replacing both the units that are at the town hall currently. We could be looking through this grant to put in 1 unit that would have 2 charging heads on it.
Okay, so that was my next question was, now I know the 3 locations, and you and I discussed earlier about the town hall, placing one over behind the building, one of the older ones behind the building, and then another one over the DPW lot. Is that something that the DPW is capable of doing, or are they good with that?
You know what? I haven't cleared that with Heather at this point. I don't see why they would, have a major issue with that. Again, if we're looking to future-proof, having one of those at the town hall, or to prepare for the future rather, having one at the town hall for town use and one at the DPW, it seems to make a lot of sense. Who knows? In a few years, Heather could be driving around in an electric SUV of some sort.
Well, have you looked
My
into?
only concern. Sorry.
The only thing I would say, Mr. Rumsey, is what would be the cost to the town if those had to be removed and put? This is something that we're not considering, taking into consideration when we're talking about this grant.
Correct. Yeah. So we'd be looking at the cost of running electrical lines and tying it into an electrical panel. So hiring an electrician to do that work. That should be the only cost that the town incurs.
Okay. And then what about if we just kept them there and utilized the vendor right there? Use the same vendor maybe as the other 3 if we receive them.
So I have not heard back yet from the company that we bought the current 2 chargers from to see if they have a way for us to use them as a pay-as-you-go situation.
Okay. Ms. Dean, you had a question?
I did not. I guess my only apprehension about having one at the DPW is that we gate that, and the requirement is that the parking space be available for 12 hours, I think.
All right. Well, then maybe it's best just to hold off and maybe look into that location in the future. Maybe do a little bit more research on that specific location, but not hold up on this application. For possibly other.
Councilor Adams, if I may, I don't believe the current charging stations that we have now are subject to any of the terms of the grant. So the new ones would be, but we're talking about taking 2 that we have now and relocating one of those to DPW.
Got it. Thank you.
So it should not be an issue with that.
So you're recommending maybe applying for that 4th one? So you're recommending go ahead and apply for the 4th one? or to be at the town hall?
Yes.
Okay, all right. Just want to make, any other discussion, comments? All right, I'm just gonna read this out since this wasn't, we did not vote on it on recommendation. And since nobody's said anything about any of the other locations, this is the motion that I'm hopefully safe to say is recommend that council pursue applying for the Mass EVIP, which is the electric vehicle incentive program, for public charging stations located at municipality parking lot behind the fire station, the location over by the gazebo at the Common, I believe that's Crystal Street. The third one would be located in front of the library on Main Street, and the fourth one would be located at the town hall. So I need a motion on that and a second.
I just have a question. I thought that they had said the one behind the fire station and the one at the library, it was going to cost us too much money to put it in. Initially, didn't Heather say something? You had to be near a certain electrical something, and I thought that was the last meeting.
Oh, before we move on, Ms. Rumsey, you want to answer that?
Sure. Yeah. No, our original locations that we showed you had one in the Central Street parking lot and one, and the one for the Edwards Block lot, located closer to, was that Chapin Street? And we don't have any, the cost to run the electrical across the parking lot was cost prohibitive for that. So that's why we removed the potential location at Central Street parking lot, and we moved from the towards Chapin Street and moved it over towards the fire station.
Okay.
Okay, so I just read off a possible motion. So I need a first and a second on that.
I'll make the motion to send it to
Okay.
council.
Catherine?
And I'll second.
Okay, any discussion? Okay, all those in favor, Dee Dee?
Yes?
Catherine?
Yes.
Counselor Adams, yes. Okay, to the chairman, to Counselor Jovan, I will write all this stuff up and get it to the town manager and Yvonne tonight, as far as the wording is concerned. All right, agenda item number 4, discuss review requests to execute the CDBG block grant fiscal year 2020 agreement with the Department of Housing and Community Development, DHCD, and the town of Southbridge. Entertain a motion to vote to recommend to council for ratification. Needed first and second.
I make the motion?
And I'll second.
Okay, thank you. Discussion, Mr. Town Manager, Ms. Dean.
I can defer to Ms. Dean on this.
Okay. Ms. Dean.
Thank you. Yes, good evening. It's unfortunately 6 months late due to the COVID grant that was offered, the CDBG CB grant for micro enterprise assistance came in the last 8 months, and we've been dispersing funds slower than we'd like to. We've had 4 awards to date. And so now they're ready to move forward with the fiscal year 20, again, 6 months late. This will be for West Street construction. It will be for McCann Field upgrades, and it will be for the code enforcement. And they've extended the grant deadline. What would normally be a July to the following December grant timeline, where we actually don't access funds until, not July, but we typically don't access the funds until November, December, January, is now going to be a grant timeline from January 1 to July of 2022. And I think Councilor Marchetti or someone had asked in the past whether we're allowed to access those funds in advance of executing the contract. We are allowed to for administrative costs if we had to, but I think we'll be okay. We'll be right up against our budgets for the new grant.
Ms. Dean, can you say those locations again, or what it's going to be spent on?
Yes.
I forgot.
Yes. West Street for water improvements, water upgrades, and ancillary surface improvements, repaving. We'll be doing McCann Field upgrades, and we'll be paying for code enforcement. If you'll remember, they've allowed us to only apply for 3 activities going as of this grant.
Okay, thank you, Ms. Dean. That's it. I just was missing one. Thank you. All right, discussion. Catherine, do you have anything from Ms. Dean or the town manager? No? Okay, Dee Dee?
What's the code enforcement?
Code enforcement is, as of 2017, the town applied for a proactive and reactive code enforcement officer to be funded through the CDBG funds, through the health inspections department. The proactive code enforcement is the health inspection, is the building inspections. They're going out and making sure that building code enforcement is enforced for multifamily homes, for gathering places. And then the reactive inspections are through the health sanitarium or the health code enforcement officer. They're responding to complaints about the health code and going into apartments. They're making sure that property owners are complying with health code, responding to dumpster complaints, things of that nature. So we pay for 60% of the health code enforcement officer and 100% of a part-time building inspector.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Anybody else? Discussion? Comments? No? So I guess the only thing questions I have is, now that Wendy is no longer their employee, which I believe CDBG money paid 100% of her salary, and then Rosemary is no longer, this is maybe a question to the town manager, and Rosemary is no longer with us, that extra funds that would pay for those 2 individuals, or a percentage of Rosemary's pay for those 2 individuals, is there a plan in place to, or what's the future look for to utilize those extra funds? Is it for road work, or is it for I don't know, I'm just asking the question.
Good question, complicated answer. What we're doing in the interim is something that I looked at when Mr. Grivens left. We divvied up some of her responsibilities amongst Mr. Rumsey and Ms. Dean, and I did make an adjustment to their compensation relative to the increased roles and responsibilities. We're also looking at what we're going to do with the administrative assistant for economic development and planning. Prior to Ms. Chambers, there had been a full-timer there. And during the exit interview process, Ms. Wendy, who was working at part-time, had felt that it may require a full-timer because of the complexities of the job. So recently I've been meeting and talking with Ms. Dean and Mr. Rumsey about whether or not we could utilize some of the CDBG funds to make that slide some of them over and make that a full-time position, which would allow that person to be on top of all the activities required in the office, as well as allow Ms. Rumsey and Ms. Dean to focus on their activities. And that would still be covered by CDBG, that position 100%. And if at any time I'm not speaking correctly, Ms. Dean, you can jump in. But that is, we were basically looking to shift some of the money that was budgeted for Rosemary's position around within the position, the department, so as not to hire a 4th person, but utilize the 3 existing positions, making the admin more full-time and then keeping the other 2 full-time, so that we didn't have 3.5 people, but function with 3 full-time people. And Speaking with Ms. Rumsey and Ms. Dean, they're confident that we can function in that environment. And we've been operating under that on a temporary basis since Ms. Scrivens left.
Thank you, sir. I guess if we were just to start.
You broke up.
I think he froze up.
Yeah, well, he broke up first, and now I think he's frozen.
While he's frozen, you mind if I ask a question?
Sure.
When I look at the chart here, and I'm sure that it's correct, I get confused by some of these. When I look at the budget summary and I add all these numbers up, it comes to more than 825,000. I'm sure there's a logical answer. I just was kind of curious about it. That's all.
Yeah, I'm sorry, real quick, Councilor Marquetti, I completely lost everybody here for some
I know you
reason.
froze up.
Yeah, okay, so I'll hold off on my question. Councilor Marquetti, whatever you were asking. Go ahead, I'm
That's
sorry.
fine.
Can you repeat yourself?
That's fine.
If you could just allow me to go look in the documents and get right back to you.
I don't think it's need as far as my question earlier, it's no rush. If we can get just an idea of what it would cost, but I don't know what Councilor Marquetti's question was, so I apologize to him if I lost everybody.
I was just looking at this budget page and I was adding up the numbers just real quick, and it didn't seem to compute, but I'm sure there's a logical answer for it. I was just curious, and since you were frozen up, I thought, why not ask?
No worries, no worries. I just again, I apologize. My internet went completely out for a second there, so I'm glad you guys stayed on. Any other discussion about this? I don't think I have any other questions for anybody here, but all right. So we've got a motion on the table. So all those in favor, Dee Dee?
Yes,
Catherine?
Yes.
And Councilor Adams, yes. So 3-0. I just want to thank Mr. Rumsey and Town Manager and Ms. Dean for all the hard work in all this information pushed through to us. So thank you. Agenda item number 5. Yes, Ms. Dean?
I apologize for the delayed response. May I still respond to Councilor Marquetti's question?
Yeah,
It's
sure.
not-
Why not?
it's not-
Okay, yes,
Go
okay.
ahead.
So yes, it represents the amount that we're going to be contributing from other funds. So for instance, the drainage and the water, that'll be contributing towards it. And that's, it's not a full picture of how much the project is going to be in the end, but at the time that we submitted the application, those were the anticipated extra funds, which the Department of Housing and Community Development loves to see. They want to see us leveraging funds as much as possible.
Okay,
Was that the question, the extra funds on the right-hand side of the Excel
Correct.
spreadsheet? Yeah. Okay, that's
All
just
right,
extra
thank you.
funds.
Yep.
Chapter 90 and stuff like that. Okay. All right. Agenda item number 5, new business. I don't have anything that I'm aware of. And agenda item number 6, motion to adjourn. So anybody want to make that motion?
I'll make the motion to adjourn.
Well, need a second?
I'll second.
And all those in favor, Dee Dee,
Yes.
Catherine,
Yes.
Councilor Adams, yes. Thank you, guys. Have a great evening. Thanks again.
Thank you. Yeah. Have a good night.
Okay.
Eric, I'm so sorry I jumped in on those items.
No, I appreciate it. Thank you.
Oh, Peg left, so
Still recording.
still recording up there.